But we start in China, where tens of thousands of people in a key economic area of southern China are rebelling against their local government. In the small fishing village of Wukan in Guangdong province, a tent standoff appears to be easing slightly. Residents held talks with government officials earlier to try to defuse the situation there, following violent protests over land rights and a village held under siege. Protesters had threatened to march on local government offices today, but in the past few hours, Chinese officials reportedly agreed to release 3 protest leaders, so that march was canceled. Meanwhile, about a 90-minute drive along the coast to the east in the town of Haimen, tens of thousands of people are demonstrating their opposition to a coal-fired power plant and also plans for another plant. Up to 30,000 residents who claim that power plant is polluting the water and damaging their livelihood occupied a public highway in a bid to get their voices heard, and they were indeed heard, and the police moved in with tear gas there. Both Haimen and Wukan were censored for a time on China's equivalent of Twitter, which is called Weibo. Social media users were met with a message saying the results cannot be displayed. Well, CNN's Eunice Yoon has been following these stories for us from Beijing, and she joins us live now. Eunice, what's happening now in both of these situations?
Well, Pauline, the authorities have responded in both of these cases. In Haimen, the authorities told us that they have decided to suspend plans for the second power plant. In Wukan, the authorities said that they've been able to work out a deal with the protest organizers to basically meet the protesters' demands. The villagers have said that the authorities have agreed to release the three imprisoned villagers. The authorities also said that they would return the body of one dead protest leader to the family, and they also said that they would recognize the villagers' own elected leaders. These were the 3 main demands of the villagers, and now they're all being met by the authorities. The government authorities also said that they would be setting up a working committee in order to work out some of the land disputes, which really triggered the protests to begin with. So we're seeing a lot of cooperation on the part of the government authorities, and the villagers on their part said this afternoon that they were quite encouraged by what they were seeing. In fact, they started taking down the barriers and the blockades around the village, and they also said that they would cooperate with the government authorities in order to try to work out what they believed would be a more fair land deal. Pauline?
Eunice, as we mentioned, for a time, both protests were censored in social media. Is it even mentioned in traditional Chinese media? And how are protesters communicating with each other?
Well, protesters are communicating with each other just within their own villages, as you would, of course, just through word of mouth. However, from village to village, the protesters are mainly hearing about other demonstrations online. So what happens is that for a period of time, a protest will break out, the information, just the photos spill out onto the internet, and then the government censors come in and start to block out certain key phrases like Haimen or Wukan, the 2 names of those 2 villages. But there is that period of time, that window, when protesters and villagers in one place will hear about a situation in another. And of course, that really taps into the fears of higher level authorities. China sees tens of thousands of protests every single year, but most of these incidents are isolated. So what they've always feared here is the possibility of a coordination among protesters. And so it was really interesting with the Wukan situation was that we saw the top leaders sending in a very high-level provincial official to go into Wukan himself and sort out a deal with the villagers. Pauline?
And Eunice, speaking of Wukan, one issue there is that suspicious death of a protester while he was in police custody, and his family has been asking for his body back. What's the latest there?
Well, his body is going to be returned to his family. That's what the villagers told us that the authorities have agreed to. However, as you said, one of the key points and one of the reasons why these villagers were so angry was because of the dispute over the death of this protest leader. The authorities said that he died of a heart attack while in police custody. However, the villagers all said that he died of torture. So there's still a dispute. The family says that they're going to get the body back, but they want to make sure that the body isn't desecrated. They don't want to see an autopsy on this body because they feel that it's disrespectful to the dead. Pauline?
All right, Eunice, thank you very much for the update on both of those protests there. And we want to give you a bigger picture of this region. Guangdong is one of China's most dynamic and vibrant provinces, meaning unrest in the economic powerhouse is most likely to be a very great concern to officials. With one of the biggest regional economies in China, Guangdong is less reliant on Beijing than other provinces. It boasts China's largest GDP by province, boosted by an extensive manufacturing industry, and is also home to China's first designated special economic zone. Nina?